Hey ladies, today is going to light a fire under you. If you have ever felt like you were made for more, but you don't know how to get there, you know who I'm talking to. Maybe you've been playing small in your business, your bank account, or maybe your confidence. Then this conversation is the conversation you didn't know you needed. I am sitting down with the incredible Eleanor Beaton. She is a powerhouse entrepreneur, a business coach, and the voice behind the woman owned podcast that's ranked in the top 1% of podcasts globally. Isn't that amazing? She has trained over thousands and thousands and thousands of women worldwide, helping them build seven-figure companies without burning out. And she's here to show us why building big isn't just possible, it's necessary. We're talking about what it really takes to scale as a woman, how to shift your state from scarcity to confidence, and why owning your worth financially, emotionally, and mentally is the key to your next level. So, whether you're building a business, rebuilding your identity, or just ready to walk in fullness of who you are called to be, buckle up because today we are stepping into queen energy. Let's do this.
Hey, Lady Boss. Welcome to LadyBoss Unplugged, the podcast where real women have real conversations about crushing their goals, building unstoppable confidence, and creating lives they absolutely love. Hi, I'm Kaitlyn CEO and owner of LadyBoss, wife, mom of two boys, and your biggest cheerleader.
Do you remember when mommy looked like that?
Way not similar.
Each week, we'll dive into stories, strategies, and straight up motivation to help you show up as the best version of you. Because let's be honest, you are made for more. So whether you're driving the kids to practice, hitting the treadmill, or just taking a moment for yourself, get ready to laugh, learn, and leave inspired.
LadyBoss gives you the tools to not only hit your weight loss or your health and fitness goals, but to believe in yourself.
This is LadyBoss Unplugged, where women like you rise, thrive, and shine.
Eleanor, welcome to LadyBoss Unplugged. I am so excited to have you on here today because our whole mission with LadyBoss, what I'm so passionate about is helping women realize their true potential and really leveling up, not being stuck where they are, whether in their body, their business, their career, their finances, their life. And I know you've helped tens of thousands of women rewrite their success story. Can you tell me a little bit about you and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so it's so exciting to be here with you, Kaitlyn. I love being able to have conversations with brilliant women like yourself and love the opportunity to be able to share my story and what I know with other women in the hopes that it's useful and inspirational and that you get something out of it. So I have a company called Safi Media. We have 7 employees and we are basically a business and training company. And our mission is to double the number of women entrepreneurs who sustainably scale to $1 million in revenue by 2030. So it's a huge mission. You know what I mean? Totally can't do it alone. But what I kind of, when I think about who I am, I often think back to this experience that I had growing up. So I grew up in Eastern Canada. I'm an immigrant to this country. Like my parents, my dad was from Wales, from Great Britain. My mother was actually from the Fiji Islands. So we moved to Canada because my dad had a job here. And when we moved here, like it was a totally different culture. And my mom, who was a teacher in the Fiji Islands, like she had to, like her teaching credentials weren't recognized. So she understood, okay, I got to retrain in Canada, but I was like 4 at the time and the culture was totally different. And so she didn't want to put me in daycare. So she made the decision that she was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And she was a stay-at-home mom throughout my entire childhood, my brother, my sister. But that decision was like a really great thing for our family. But what it meant is that because my dad was the breadwinner and my mom was not, when they got into disagreements about how to use money, which would happen from time to time, my dad kind of always won out. And my mom felt like she didn't really have a voice because she wasn't, quote unquote, bringing home the bacon. Mm-hmm. And, I can remember one time she's driving me to basketball practice and they've had a disagreement my mom always wanted to be a bit more of an investor and invest in real estate and stuff. My dad was like much more risk averse. And she's like gripping the steering wheel in that car. And she's like, Eleanor, money is power. Always make your own. And, like when people talk about finding their purpose and finding to me, it's like there's something really powerful, like when you have this thing kind of burning inside you, and it could just be a belief. That's been my thing, my whole life, my entire career. It's just kind of like women having financial agency so that we have choices and freedom. And, that is like why I do what I do. It's really important to me. Figuring out ways to help women have financial power has been the through line of my entire career. Because I feel like when you have money, the power that it gives you is not like power over people. It's just the power to make choices. And I think that's what we're here to do. For most women, I think what we're all about is being ourselves, like more and more and more of who we are. And money is a tool to help us do that.
That is so incredible. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing. I can imagine like being in the backseat and watching your mom just be so frustrated with it, because it is like, I mean, even today, that was how many years ago? Like even today, it's still a struggle you see with stay-at-home moms and relationships, figuring out finances and what that looks like. I actually came across a quote the other day that I absolutely love. And it's, serve the world unselfishly and profit.
Ooh, yes. I love that.
Because it's like, some businesses, it just seems like you're chasing the dollar constantly. And I'm like, okay, for me, and I was a struggle. Like, I'm here to help women, but I still have to feed my family. I still have to pay my own. What does that look like? And so I love that when I heard it's like, no, I can serve the world unselfishly and still profit. And that's okay, because that gives you, like you just said, the freedom and the power, and you can do so much good with it even.
Totally. And so this is so interesting because there's like, so research shows that like making up to a certain amount of money. So they say money can't make you happy. I'm like, well, I disagree. Like, I think it can definitely help. Yeah. But the interesting thing is like, there's thresholds, right? So like up to a certain amount of money, it 100% makes a massive difference in your life, in your choices, in your happiness. But then over a certain threshold, it doesn't really motivate you as much anymore. So for instance, like I can remember when I crossed $1 million in annual sales the first time in my business. And I was like, that had been like my chief goal. Mm-hmm. And I was I just really threw myself into it. And so I hit the milestone and I like celebrated for a couple of days. And then I actually felt kind of depressed. And the reason that I felt kind of depressed was because I thought it would change who I was, but I was still the same old me. And so for me, even though like, financial empowerment and financial independence is so key, the interesting thing that I've noticed is that after a certain amount of time, the money motivates me a lot less. Like, you know what I mean? Then it still is super important. Like I want to have, we're going to live longer. We're going to outlive our partners. Like we need to have, nest eggs in a financial fortress. But the thing that really motivates me now is really about like expressing who I am, and like really making sure that when I die, I kind of die empty, that I've expressed what I was here to express. I had the impact I was here to have. So for me, that's kind of the standard that I hold myself to. And that's what I kind of build my business around. I know like health and well-being is huge for this community. Like it's a huge part of my major health practices that I have in my life, which is like, do I have the energy to express who I am? Like I lift heavy weights all the time in the gym. And for me, that's like such an expression, like strength. You know what I mean? I'm like, strength is like a big expression. Yeah. So that's what kind of juices me up now, even more than the money. The money's just like pursuing it helps me learn more about who I actually am.
I love that. I love looking at it like that. So you at this point have helped thousands of women, right? Mm-hmm. And specifically women entrepreneurs. What is one common mindset block or limiting belief that you've seen across the board for women trying to scale?
Yeah. Oh God. And I think this applies to all women. Definitely we see it in kind of scaling, but it's what I call the perfection paradox. So, perfection drives women in two specific ways. So the first is that most of us are actually very motivated by perfection. Like how many women do you know? Maybe they're married and if you look at the woman and her husband, they're married to a guy, let's say, and you look at her and her husband, and as that woman she's growing and trying to improve herself and just getting better. Like she's constantly striving to improve herself. Yeah. And guys, bless their hearts, but not quite so much, right? They don't have, they really accept themselves. Totally. Exactly. Like hygiene, if we can get the hygiene move. So that always surprised me, but it just kind of speaks to the fact that we're very motivated by a concept of perfection, and we're often trying to move toward it. And so while we sometimes criticize women for being perfectionistic or having these perfect standards, it actually can be quite constructive. Like it's the force that creates a lot of self-improvement and growth. So that's an amazing thing about women. We also try to make sure that everybody's taken care of. It's that sort of being fairly holistic in how we do things. We take care of the details, very, very motivated by perfection. But on the other side of that is it's actually very dangerous for a woman to be too perfect. Mm-hmm. And many women will often start to experience as they sort of approach being quote unquote too perfect. Like they don't want to trigger jealousy or competitiveness in other people. They don't want to be too much in the spotlight because it could create a lot of, criticism. So what I see that can really, some of the internal challenges that can really impact women is we're sort of caught in this push and pull between wanting to grow and express, to become the very best we can be, but not wanting to be so good that we start to trigger problems for ourselves. Mm. And that can really keep you in the box. And it creates what we call cognitive dissonance, which is where you both want something and don't want something. And I've worked with so many women who had goals, but they also kind of didn't have the goals. They were like, is this goal going to be worth what it requires? And so we're always kind of having this extra, it's like having this really heavy backpack on. And I think that is an internal thing that impacts a lot of women. And it has to be something we reconcile if we're going to be able to play full out, which is what we want.
I love that. It ties into that fear of success in a way. Yeah. And then, so we here at LadyBoss always say progress over perfection. And I love how you just describe perfection like that. It's not a bad thing by any means, but then you end up getting stuck. And we always say you kind of fizzle out when you focus on being perfect in your health journey 24/7. Totally. You're going to eat the cheeseburger, but you shouldn't have to feel failure when you do. It's okay. It's part of life. Eat the cheeseburger.
Yes. And it's interesting because I think the quest for perfection or for growth is helpful as a direction. You know what I mean? Yes, improvement is great. You know what I mean? Keep going for it. It's not helpful as a standard to hit. Mm-hmm. No. That's not helpful at all.
Well, and a lot of our perfection thought process comes from what we've seen, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it comes from what we've seen. And Stacy down the road might be great at waking up every morning and making breakfast, lunch, and dinner for her husband and keeping her house looking like it's showing for sale every day of the week. And while I could look at it and be like, oh, that's perfection. I want that. That's not my personality type. That's not me. So it's not even something that would actually make me happy. It could be a goal outline of what I would like and who I am. But it's not, I will never be that version of perfect that I'm seeing because it's not in my personality. Yeah. It wouldn't even bring me joy.
Totally. And I do think there's this really important, development that most of us as women have to go through, which is the willingness to really own who we are, to own our decisions, to own who we are, what's important to us, what's not important to us. I can remember, I'll give you an example. I can remember talking to my health coach and I was like, I just want a snatched waist. So I was going to do a cut. I'm like, I just really want a snatched waist. I'm going to do a cut. And I'd done one before and it worked out really great. And then I did like I was like building muscle and felt great. And I decided, okay, I want to show everybody these muscles that I've worked so hard to create. I'm going to do a cut. And what was so interesting is that I actually didn't want to do the cut because I loved having all the energy from like eating lots. And I just didn't want to do. So I kept not doing it. And, I just kept not doing my cut. And she's like, Eleanor, so it sounds to me like, can we talk about it? What is this snatched waist and why is it so important to you? Because it sounds to me like you actually don't really want to do it. Like, and maybe you should really own that. And it was such a powerful, like, I think that's why having a coach and having a community where people can hold up the mirror and say to you, are you sure? Because you're kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth here, my friend. You know what I mean? You say you want something, your actions are not lining up. So why don't you just own the fact that you don't want to do a cut. You don't want to do it. Like, just, you've got to make a choice and live with it either way, but own your choices. And that's just an example of, like, I think so many of the times when I look in my life and experience and I think about, because like you, I mean, I feel like I'm an expert in women because I've been working with women for like a decade. And so many problems come from not really being clear about what we want, but even more than that, not committing to what we want and owning our decisions and who we are.
Yes. Yep. Nope. I 100%. I see that in my industry all the time. And it's that coach, that community is truly crucial. And there's that mind shift of like, they're not out to get you. They're not being mean. It's that tough love that you need to hear to help you level up. Like, I have employees on my team that'll call me out and I'm like, ooh, I'm the boss. And it's like, no, like, I need to hear that. Like, please call me out. Keep pushing me forward.
Totally.
Like, that's the only way we can have that coach, right? Like, having that coach that's going to push you, challenge you, keep you going. And those people in your inner circle.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I know you have this thing that you call the Queen of Cash Flow mindset, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh my gosh, yes. So, I don't know about you, but like sometimes the feeling of when I just want to be like, okay, in your face, you know what I mean? Where I want to like prove a point, like really make a point.
Right,
that sort of indignation, in your face energy has honestly been a very constructive force in my life. So a couple of years ago, like I really started to notice a big pattern in the entrepreneurs I was working with in particular. They kept thinking that their marketing wasn't working or that they weren't doing enough marketing or like, I don't have time to do as much marketing as I need to do to grow my business. And what I was actually seeing was, honestly, like, sure, we could always improve their marketing, but their marketing was pretty good. What they didn't have was a sales function. Right. And so marketing is kind of like where you plant the seeds in the garden, and sales is where you harvest the vegetables. And if you don't harvest the vegetables, act like the vegetables do not harvest themselves. Mm-hmm. You have to harvest them. You've got to gather them. That's the difference between marketing and sales. And so they weren't harvesting. And I was like, no, you just have to develop an active sales process. And the simplest way to do this, and I think any woman, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, can really benefit from this. It's like, can you make an ask every day? Can you make an offer every day? Like, ask, can we meet? Would you like to check this out? Like, just make an offer every day. It's a really, really powerful discipline that can change your life. So they wouldn't do it. I was like, that's fine. We're going to do a challenge. So I got a group of 30 women entrepreneurs. They were sort of pulled from a group of clients I was working with. And I was like, I'm going to be your sales manager. And every day you have to do 5 reach outs at minimum and make an offer every single day. I'll be running a daily sales stand-up, and we're going to calculate so these were business owners. So we calculated their monthly revenue from the 3 months before and came up with their average monthly revenue. They had no time to market, 30 days. So our first cohort, the average month-over-month revenue growth was over 1,000%. These 30 women generated over $1 million in sales in 30 days. It was insane. We had another client who she was making $13,000 a month. And she, in 30 days, made $178,500. It was like they blew their minds. And it was from the difference between, so that, and this, and then, you know what I said? In your face. I'm just kidding. Right. And so I guess the whole thing, you know, is that sometimes as women, like, and I think it's not just women, but sometimes we feel weird about certainly as entrepreneurs, like sales function and asking for the sale. But I think as women, like asking for what we want. Yes. I think this translates, you know, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to get an insight from this. It's like, how often do you ask for help and accept it? How often do you ask for the things that you want? You know, like I know a woman, Susan Hyatt, who is like, she's like, when, you know, when you're traveling on the plane and they come around and ask you if you want, you know, Diet Coke or something, she's like, practice asking for the whole can. Mm-hmm. And they might say no, but it's just like practice asking for what you want. And I think it's such a great, you know, it's such a great discipline. I still struggle with it sometimes. And so I try to really build that muscle.
It's a great muscle to have because we do struggle with it, especially I think as women, you know, I think everyone in the world struggles to some extent with it, but women definitely. I was actually at an event earlier this year and someone was talking to a guy there and he's like, you know, I'm so motivated by you. You're amazing. Like I heard you flew your private plane here. Like if you ever have a free seat, I would love to hop on. And the guy looked at him and said, well, actually I do. Are you available at, you know, at the end of the event? I'll fly you to Nashville with me. And he's like, what? Like you're kidding. And sure enough, the guy flew him back to Nashville with him. He, you know, had to got around this private plane because they asked. If they never would have asked. And when the guy asked him, he goes, why did you say yes to me? I'm sure you're asked all the time about your plane and whatnot. And he's like, well, I'm not asked all the time. But second off, most people, when they do ask, they're not even serious. They won't make the effort, even with the permission. So it's even that second level of you can ask, but when you get the answer that is the answer you wanted that you didn't know you would actually get, now you've got to take action on it.
Oh my gosh, totally. It
was so cool. I'm like, yep, just
so like, good.
It doesn't hurt. Like if you don't ask, you don't know.
No, exactly. Exactly.
No, you never asked.
Yeah. And nobody like died from being told no.
No.
You know, like it's actually perfectly safe to hear the word no.
Yep. It's part of life. They're not going to judge you for having to say the word no.
Right.
And be like, hey,
come on.
Another event I was at, I had this gal run up to me. She was 16 at the time. Okay. She runs up to me and bubbly burst of energy, no fear in her eyes. Like she asked all the questions, inserted herself, and at 16 years old. And I'm like, I've actually had done podcast interviews with her before, and I stay in contact with this gal. Her name's Mary, but I'm just blown away by her energy and how she stares fear in the face at that age where the world is not so kind to the teenage world by any means right now. She'll ask the question. She'll put herself out there. She's been told no 1,000,001 times and gets back up. And I'm like, you are inspiration for not just people your age, but even for adults. Like it is incredible to have that muscle.
You know, it really is. And it's interesting. Like when I think about what makes a really great life, you know, and what is it that allows people to express their full potential and reach the goals that they want and have the quality of life that they want. A lot of times it really comes down to, are you willing to be courageous in these small everyday moments every day? Because a lot of times we think about courage as like these big baller moves, but that happens sometimes, but really it's about like, are you being courageous every day? Are you having that difficult conversation? Are you facing, you know, are you willing to, you know, you wake up on a Monday morning, maybe you just have some of those that Monday morning anxiety. Can you talk to yourself and just be like, hey, I'm just going to meet the moment. Like I'm going to show up with full energy today. And I trust myself to meet the moment. And in the moment to make the decisions, to make the ask, to, you know, to face it. I think it's everyday courage that when we don't demonstrate it and when we don't use it, we don't have the muscle for when we need really big courage. So I think that everyday courage, whether it's just asking, can I have a ride home with you? Or the, you know, the young woman that you're talking about, they're really great models for us as a reminder, like, hey, practice courage every single day. You have to.
You have to.
Yeah.
Now, I would love to know your 3 key growth strategies that you've seen for the growth stages for women-owned companies, because I have a feeling as you walk us through those, they tie pretty directly into their everyday life. Does it not? Maybe?
Totally. Okay. So the 3 stages of growth for women-owned companies are producer, replicator, multiplier. So producer, and I think like when you really kind of when you understand the different phases of growth, it helps you figure out like, where do I need to be focusing my attention right now? So producer is pretty much where most women who are running like a coaching business or a consulting business or a service-based business or even a multi-level marketing business, like it could be whatever. But a producer is where like you are the business. You know, you're doing everything. You are usually like delivering on the service or the work. You are doing all of the sales. You're doing the marketing. It's your name associated with everything. And you may have a little bit of help, but it's primarily you. And a lot of women-owned businesses, they will, producer stage goes to, depending on what you're selling, like as much as $350,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So that's the producer stage. And I think, a lot of times we'll tell producers, you need to delegate, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I actually think at that phase, it's really about optimizing you. Like, are you as healthy as you can be? Do you have good time management practices? Are your systems streamlined to make it as easy as possible for you? So this is about like maximizing you and your personal productivity. This is really, really key. And a lot of women will be like, they do that. And then they realize, hey, I get to keep a lot of the money that I make. I have super high profit margins. I like this. I want to stay here. And that is 100% fine. You know what I mean? So what you've done is created a kick-ass job for yourself that pays super well. You have tons of control. The only downside is often like you stop making money when you stop working. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of women, like it's totally worth it to stay in this place. But some people are going to be like, and I want more. And so that's when you move into replicator. And replicator takes usually people from like anywhere from 250 to 350 to $1 million, maybe closer to 750,000, I would say. And so during this block, it becomes, this is an awesome block and really challenging, because basically it becomes about your ability as a founder to create replicatable results so that other people can do the things that you used to do yourself. So it's like, usually we start with like replicate. Can you replicate how you deal with customers? Can you replicate how you deliver your service? Can you replicate how you market? Can you replicate how you sell? So it's different than just delegation, because what you're actually doing is creating systems. Like I remember trying to delegate before I had systems, and I feel sorry for those poor girls that I hired. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like, so replicator. And the thing is, what's hard is that it's actually, this is the phase where you actually usually have to make those processes yourself. And you won't always be a good process maker, but the business doesn't always have the cash to be able to hire it out. So you have to learn how to do this whole other skill set. It takes a lot of patience. You have to deal with the fact that you're like building systems and still flying the plane at the same time. So that's replicator. But man, when you get through replicator to multiplier, so multiplier is when the systems are in place, and now your job is to hold people accountable to delivering that. So I was saying, like, today I have like very little to do. And yet like I get to work on strategic stuff, like pushes the business forward. My calendar is a lot more open than it used to be. The type of work that I do now is very different, with really strong cash reserves. But man, the work that it took to get here. But multiplier is all about, now you have other leaders in your company and they are responsible for outcomes. Like they're now responsible for creating the systems. So there's a ton of freedom here. And this is where you'll really see like a lot of wealth getting built. The profit margins are higher. you have more time and energy, like the difference, you can just see the increase in energy levels. And I find like it's where, if you're a woman who really loves business and wants to crush it in business, this is where like you get to be that inspirational leader, and you have the energy, you have the time, and you have the money, and that's like a really powerful. Yeah. So those are the 3 phases of growth. So powerful. So it's like, one is doing it yourself. The other is creating systems. And the final is working through people. So I think, like even if you're working inside an organization, you can start probably see the similar pathways to your own, career development.
Where is that? That's amazing. I love that outline. And when I think of producer, replicator, and multiplier, when we look at our everyday lives, I'm thinking of like the busy mom, just trying to figure it out. Like as the producer, you're learning what the habits are and how to, be able to just pour into yourself, find time for yourself, because we're busy,
Yes.
right? But we can't show up as our best selves if we're not working on ourselves and meeting all the things. And then how do you build habits out of it? That's that replicator phase, like building the habits in there. So it's not just, you're not just producing it. Now it's everyday life. And then your multiplier is, it's easy. You've got it figured out. Now you've unlocked a whole nother level where now you're not focused on your health or your state or your wellness. I mean, you constantly are, but that's on repeat. Like now your multiplier is like,
yes,
I'm going to go after this job I never thought last year I could ever get. I'm going to level up my bank account. Like that whole other life that, like, if you've got that scarcity mindset, it's truly unlocked once you hit that multiplier level.
Oh, totally. And it's like, it's things that used to be hard are now easy. Like I remember, this, when I first did a yoga class, and the person was like, okay, now we're going to go into downward dog. And she's like, this is the resting position. And meanwhile, like my arms are shaking. I got sweat, like downward dog there is nothing easy about that.
In there.
Right? You're like, this is supposed to be the resting position, resting my butt. Like, no way. Then I got more into yoga, and after a while, like after I did, I did like a few stints where I would do yoga like every day for a few months. And lo and behold, it didn't get easier. I became a person who did hard better.
Ooh.
That's, I think, what we're trying to do. Like, I always think about, like I said, I love to go and lift heavy weights. And the only way you build the muscle is by progressive overload. Like it's got to get the weight has to get more, Yeah. And so you go in and you lift the weight and then you're sore the next day, or it's like really hard. I'm not taking the weight off. I'm going to be a person who lifts that weight with more ease. I'm going to get stronger to make it easier. I don't make it easier by taking the weight off. And that's, I think, the thing, like that mental toughness is really seeing challenges not as pressure and this heaviness and being like doing everything you can to get away from the challenge. I think it's about seeing challenges as stimulus. Yes. Muscles need stimulus to grow. We need stimulus to grow. Like we won't grow if we don't have the stimulus. And, I have spent periods of my life trying to avoid hard things because I wanted to stay comfortable. And now, right, I'm just like, I am not doing that. Like, we're not having it today. Yeah.
No, then you miss out on living in your true potential. Right. I don't want to die wondering what if, because I lived in that scarcity mindset, not willing to stretch that muscle. Like,
yeah, agree 100%. Oh my gosh.
So what would you say that it really takes internally and externally to move to that, from that 200K ceiling to that $1 million mark?
I think number one, a mindset of being impatient with action and patient with results. So when you look at, like, before I was a business coach, I was like a business journalist. And so I interviewed, my beat was kind of covering like fast growing CEOs, and almost all of them had this. Like it's actually very difficult if you don't have this. You need to have a sense of urgency, which means that for a lot of things, it's going to be now o'clock. Your priorities, it's always now o'clock with your priorities, which means you got to be very careful about what you prioritize and very clear, about what those are, because not everything can be now o'clock. But you need to be urgent and bring a sense of urgency to action And then you need to have patience with respect to results. And what I find is that the people who don't make it from one stage to the other, who want to, because not everyone wants to, as I said, and that's a very legitimate choice, but the ones who want to make that growth, they've got it opposite. They are very patient with their action, and they have a high sense of urgency with their results. And so at that point, you know, as a coach, I'm going to talk to them about that, you know, but at the end of the day, like you're going to have to, like you are going to have to bring that sense of urgency. And so that's why, you know, for me as a coach, it's always like, I think about like Kim Mulkey, who is the coach of the Louisiana LSU basketball team, like legendary coach. Like a big part of her job is picking, like who she picks, right? And I think for a lot of, you know, coaches or business owners, it's about, hey, are we picking well so that the people that we work with are high performers? Because high performers, like you can see it in their face, like they are going to be taking that action. Yeah. So I would say like that is like one huge thing that's really important in terms of making the leap. I think the second thing is continuing to take risks. So it's really interesting. So what happens is, imagine you've got a business, you're doing like $350,000 a year. You have like maybe a VA and a small team, but you're like making good money. You feel very comfortable. That's sometimes the biggest risk to your growth. It's that now you got to get uncomfortable again. And most of us who've been through that early part of business, you know, like I can remember just like scraping by, you know, some months like just totally scraping by, so stressed. Like I just remember this, and none of us want to go back there. And so what happens is the moment we start getting comfortable, we're like, okay. And listen, that's cool. Like you can take comfort breaks, you know, you can just, it's totally cool to be like, I'm going to cruise for a little bit, calm down my nervous system, and then go back in, take a breather, take a chill pill. You can totally do that. I did that for a year. You know, there's a period of my business where I was like, we're going to cruise. If cruise control is on, like I need to recover. And that was great. But then you've got to remind yourself that growth happens at the edges, you know? And so, you know, particularly for women who have a different relationship with risk, I think it's important. Like we have to keep reminding ourselves, you have to continue taking risks. You have to continue thinking about yourself as an investor in your future. You know, and it's not the same as like frivolousness or recklessness, but being very strategic and knowing that first you invest the time or resources or energy, you take the risk, and then you get the return. I think that's kind of the second thing. And then I think the third thing, which is like one of these massively important skills, is learning to work through others. It's probably been the skill that, like, I feel like I'm a natural leader, and was always fairly good at telling people what to do. But you know what I mean? That never held me back. But learning how to work through others, it's a complex skill. You know what I mean? It's not easy, but learning how to do that, I have found to be so key.
Yes. And I think there's definitely a level of that. So if you don't know a little bit about my story with LadyBoss, is I've worked for LadyBoss for 6 years, and I just purchased it in December. So I went from answering customer emails to leading teams to leading the company to now owning the company. And I've walked through all those shifts, but almost backwards, because
yes,
I was more in that leadership role before I had that ownership role. And so
it's such a baller. Like I just have to, I did know that, and I kind of forgot it. But I freaking love that so much, because I think it's such a powerful, like, woman-owned story. So first it speaks to like succession planning. It also speaks to like, these are the types of team members that you want. You know what I mean? Like, this is like what you were worth to that company as a person who is willing to buy it. Like, that just says so much. And talk about talk about being a baller and taking a risk.
Yes.
You know what? Like, I just love that. I love that so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's scary. It was scary. And there's times that it is still scary. And like all the times
Yes.
like you talked about, I'm like, yep, been there. You know what? Maybe I'm currently there. And
Totally.
it's like, I've got a team. We're a small but mighty team. We've got like 4 employees right now, but everyone is such a go-getter. And I love it. I'm like, that's what I want. In the past, you'd have an employee that would be like sneaking about like, oh, I'm applying elsewhere. Right. Like if you are able to take your skills and grow and it's not with us, I'll be bummed. But like, I want that growth for you as an employee, as a leader, because like your growth is our growth as a company. Right.
Totally. Yes. Exactly.
So the behind the scenes, when it comes to your personal habits, you talked about really working with your health coach and in the gym, heavy lifting. What is one practice or mindset that helps you stay grounded with, family and serving others inside your company?
So honestly, and the way that I answer it now is probably different than it would have been 6 months ago. So 6 months ago, like I'd started hearing about this concept of human design. And, when people talk about being generators and manifesting generators and projectors. And so I'd hear them and I am like, I think it's my former journalist thing. So I'll be like really skeptical about stuff. I'd be like, okay, whatever. And I don't mind the woo, but sometimes, it's like, I would feel like people would like overly identify with, oh, that's because she's a manifesting generator. She's totally like that. Or So I just kind of wrote it off. Well, joke's on me, because then like I had a girlfriend who like really, she's like, look, I just did a $470,000 launch. And then she did $1 million launch. And she's like, I basically designed the whole launch around my human design. So I was like, so money talks. And so I was like, okay, what is this? So I started learning about human design. And I'm a generator. It's a type of human design. Basically, generator, it's like, or human design is a little bit astrology, a little bit like personality type, a little, it's sort of a cross between those things. So I learned about my human design and I started to learn that as a generator, the most important thing for me is to do what it takes to stay in a super high vibe, super high energetic state. That is actually the most important work that I do. And as long as I can stay up in this state, I'm going to be good. And I kind of was like, what? So when do people actually do work, But but I was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm a good student. So I invested in figuring out what my human design was. I learned about it. And I basically, around 6 months ago, I started prioritizing my entire life to be able to stay in a super high vibe. Meaning, and I'll give you an example. So I couldn't always control it. Like if I happen to have a day that's meeting heavy, which I don't love, I'll look at my calendar and I'll really prepare. I'll be like, look, this is going to be a meeting heavy day. What must be true for me to maintain a super high vibe this whole? And so for me, and so I would start to arrange, well, I definitely need to have breakfast with my family. I definitely need to get a really good walk in. And I definitely, you know what I mean? Whatever, like that alone. So really organizing my time to maximize my sort of human design type that's how I stay grounded. So it's actually not grounded at all. It's like buzzing high vibe. But for me, so there's a really good app, by the way, like, if anybody's like me, they're like, what is this? So I found like, it's an app and it's called, bear with me guys, I'm looking for it. It's called Align, the human design app. And so you just need your birth certificate. You need to figure out like when you were born, day, month, year, and time and location. And look, if you hate it, I didn't breathe a word about it. If you love it, be like, I owe Eleanor Beaton everything.
I'll definitely be checking it out.
Right?
Because I'm curious about my human design. Like as you described, I almost think like biohacking, but human design, like intertwining it all so you can show up every day. And as for me and my growth and my story, like you come more in tune with your body and your moods, and like I can feel it, and I'll arrange my schedule, or I'll even just like vocalize to my husband, like, "Don't mess with me today. You won't like me,"
Yeah, exactly.
But to have those times where you're like, "No, I'm on fire. I'm ready to kill it. I'm in my element," and be able to lock that in so you can show up as that constantly would be a game changer, rather than like the preventative, like, okay, husband, don't push the buttons, now you
Yeah.
have to have that conversation because now you can
Yeah.
elevate in your human design. That is so cool.
Like it was so cool because, and that's why I'm quite evangelistic about it for myself, or evangelical about it. So for instance, like I would start to find that usually by 4 o'clock after a day, I was quite exhausted. That changed. So occasionally I'll still, because the goal is to be at a super high vibe 100% of the time. The reality is, well, that's perfection. That's not gonna, but it's like, yeah, the knowing, just holding that, hey, this could be possible. So what can I do? Like it really shifted my energy. Just kind of, it had an impact on sales. It was a big deal for me. So I hope, like, I'm super curious how others experience it, but I personally found it super helpful.
Awesome. I'm excited to dive in and check it out.
Yeah.
So we also talk about how important showing up as your future self, your future version of yourself before the results come. Have you
Yeah.
embodied that in your own life at all?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because I fully believe in that, and it's so interesting. Like how I've done that has evolved a lot. So like earlier in my business, I did a lot of, I would kind of create like a painted picture. So I use the whole like painted picture Cameron Herold methodology, or vivid vision, he calls it, where you really start to describe what your ideal company or state looks like. And so I would draw that out. And then you basically put it away. I would put it away and I would rediscover it a few years later. And lo and behold, it had happened. So I think like, really visualizing what the future can look like is really powerful. As I have evolved and grown, like I'm 47 years old. So I'm in a bit of a different stage now where it's interesting. Now I just know, because I've had that happen. Like I've seen it happen where I really think about my future self and what her life is. And I focus on that, now I know that it can happen, and that if I have goals and dreams, they're going to happen. And so I sort of really trust that. So now what I look at is, hey, what experiments am I running right now, that are going to create the outcome that I want? And how can I show up with the energy that it's already done? I was watching this writer that I love. Her name is Sharmadean Reed. She's this British woman. She's really fascinating. She started this great like cosmetics and beauty, line. She's a really interesting entrepreneur. But she shared on her Instagram recently this reel, and it was by this independent filmmaker. And the interviewer's like, how did you get the money to shoot your first feature film? And he's like, well, we had like our two little cameras, and it was me and my, director of photography. So between us, we like had a lot of these skills. We figured we could do the wardrobe ourselves. We had some actors who were willing to use it for their portfolio. So we just kind of had the energy, like, we are the money. It's happening, and you get to be a part of it. He's like, when people start seeing the wheels turning, so it's really like, this is happening. Get on board or don't. It's happening. You know what I mean? And I think like that, right? Like that energy is like so irresistible.
Yes, you just attract at that point.
Yeah. Right? Do it or don't do it. I don't care. It's happening. Like this is done. I think that this is done energy. Done. Yeah. It's like, so it's like, it's very powerful.
I do both, where I plan it out and then I lose it and I'll come across a couple months later and I'm like, did we stay on track, or are we, we did that. I also vision boards and whatnot. Yeah. Building on vision boards and having it so you can visualize it. And it's amazing. Like once you, like, that's my goal. That's what I'm going after. How it manifests itself.
I think that reality. And it's like, to me, like that inspired state, that's like my favorite type of energy, where I feel inspired. So I feel like vision boards and futuristic thinking are so powerful for that.
You have that purpose. And I think I really also, going back to, that stuck scarcity mindset, like it helps push you forward, because as you can visualize it and see it, well, if I stay where I'm at, that's not going to happen, right? Like I want that. And so that becomes your driver even more so.
Yeah, totally.
I actually, have you heard of Darren Brown at all?
Yes. The name sounds really familiar.
I just
I don't know why.
one of his documentaries. He's a filmmaker. Well, not I wouldn't say he's a filmmaker, but he has a documentary out on Netflix called Sacrifice. No, Sacrified. I think it's called Sacrified by Darren
Okay.
Brown. It's basically all about your mind. And Darren Brown, I don't even know what he is. He is a mind master, is what he is, and he manipulates the brain into, in this particular one, he manipulated the brain into pushing past his fears and overcoming things that he would have normally ever done. And at the end of it, I don't want to ruin it, so you'll have to go watch it, but it's amazing because it was all power of suggestion. The gentleman never knew what was going on or whatnot, but he lived in all these fears of heights and, had a struggle with different races and things like that. And as Darren worked on his mind mastery with him without him even knowing, he overcame those fears and did things that he never would have done prior, just by those light switches changing. So it's amazing how powerful that mind is moving past that. The stories we tell ourselves.
Totally. Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Well, all right. Sorry. I actually went down a rabbit hole now and I was like, oh, but it's
No,
just
I love
story.
it. Right. Well, that's the thing when you find things that move you and they're like super useful. Like I wrote it down. Is it going to be on my Netflix watch list immediately? Yes, it is.
It's short watch. It's like 45 minutes. You've got that.
Totally got it.
It was amazing. But okay. So I've got a fun question for you.
Mm-hmm.
We believe so much in women lifting each other up.
Yeah.
I would love to know, who is one woman who has helped you believe in yourself when you didn't and you didn't see it yet?
I think one of the most important role models in my life is my aunt. Her name is Linda Wise, on Linda Wise on Instagram. I think like The Creative Life or something like that. So she was my dad. She is my dad's sister, my late father, his sister. And she was a woman on Wall Street in the 1980s. She had a really, really successful career as a trader, and then she quit it to become a novelist. And she wrote like these financial thrillers that were optioned by Hollywood. And she just was like this. She really showed me a few things. Number one, she really taught me the power that anything is possible. She really taught me the power of taking risks. Like she quit a job where she was making bank, like tons and tons and tons of money, to go and take a gamble on becoming a novelist. And it totally paid off. And she really taught me the power of of believing in myself and pampering myself. Like she was just and women, sometimes we need that. We need examples of women who just pamper themselves, not because they deserve it or earn it, they just because, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be this existential, did I earn this? Did I deserve this? No, just freaking do it,
Right.
So she has, like when I think about role models, because to me, I am like, it's my role models who lift me up. It's like the women out there who show an example. And she's been just such a powerful example to me. She reinvented herself as a Jungian money coach, which is really, really interesting. Like, so yeah, Linda Wise.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to go stalk her and
Yeah.
go check her because I love it. When a question I've been I'm sure you've been asked, is if you could have lunch with anyone, who would it be? And mine is always Marilyn Monroe, because one, Marilyn Monroe is not her real name. That was her ultra persona. And two, she was like outside of the beauty standards then. She stepped outside the box. And it sounds like that's what your aunt did, was like, she's like, no, I'm going to go for it. Like in the 80s, like being on Wall Street and stepping out, like that's like some major moves right there.
It is, totally.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to have to go stalk her.
Yes.
All right, ladies. Well, I don't know about you, but I am so fired up after this conversation. Thank you so much, Eleanor, for pouring so much wisdom into myself and the Lady Boss fam. If you ladies loved this episode, go give Eleanor a follow. Where can they find you at?
Oh, on Instagram, I'm at Eleanor Beaton, and I'd love to connect.
Yes, and go binge her podcast, Woman Owned. You will seriously walk away from every episode like smarter, bolder, more confident. Like there's so much goodness coming out of it. I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on, Eleanor. And as always, lady bosses, you were never meant to shrink to fit someone else's mold. Okay, you were meant to lead and grow and expand, to play full out, to live fully, and as the woman you were created to be. You ladies have an amazing day, and we will see you next time.